So there's a point in your story that really struck me, and it was when you were on an F1 visa going to the United States, and you're like 18 at this time, and you have a layover in Brussels, and the security there thought you were a spy because you had an Indian passport, and you spoke to him in French, and I can only imagine how traumatizing that type of experience would be to someone who's just going off to college. How did you deal with it? And are there strategies that you've developed to cope with those types of situations?
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many experiences like that in my life. And I chose that one particularly because it illustrates something about the unique experience of being multi-identified and looking one type of way, speaking a lot of other languages, and also being someone who's globally really hyper aware and right cannot just code switch, but also can language switch and persona switch, right? So that's what happens to a person whose parents are originally from partitioned Punjab, who was born in rural Tanzania and raised in Botswana, and who learned French and went through a very British colonial education and had already read Jane Austen and Macbeth and all of the Shakespeare verses, and proved to people at the University of Cambridge that they were worthy of getting the colonizer's stamp of approval of being a hyper-educated person. So I had already done that by then, right? And I had traveled alone back and forth from the African continent to India several times by then. So traveling alone wasn't a new thing. We also have to contextually remember that it was an apartheid time, at a time where apartheid was still a thing, and the resistance movements were very active at this time. And I was very well aware of that because many of my teachers were not just white people from South Africa who had opposed the apartheid government, and so they're the ones that educated me, but also because many of my neighbors were people who were part of the resistance movement, right? So what I didn't illuminate was also examples of, multilingual kind of resistance strategies that I had seen in just everyday life, right? So none of those things I had the bandwidth to sort of really go into, but I just want to contextualize for this conversation that, yes, I actually could have been a spy. My family, my children and I joke about this a lot. Because in many places I go and I overhear conversations in different languages, whether it's Gujarati or whether, I'll overhear conversations and I know exactly what's up, not just from the words, but also from the nonverbal cues. And so I think there was something about that person who saw my passport, saw me as a person, something about me signaled to them that I was a kind of human that needed to be interrogated. So a lot of European descendant people on every continent have that reaction to me.